Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace reporting live here at the Blue Note here in New York City. Tonight, vocal group Sweet Honey and the Rock will be performing a stirring tribute to some of the most important women of the folk and oral music tradition. And I'm talking about Nina Simone, Odetta, Miriam, as well as the late Abbey Lincoln. Tonight's presentation is brought to you by Jill Newman Presents, and I sat down earlier with the ladies and we talked about, one, the importance of Sister Nina, Sister Odetta, as well as Miriam's muse, why their lyrics and the content of their music is very relevant in 2011, as well as Sweet Honey and the Rock's evolution as vocalists, preserving and carrying on the lineage of the vocal oral tradition.
All right, hey, when you come to me now, when you let me say, oh, when you come to me now, well, I'm see ya, when you come to me now, when you let me say, oh, when you come to me now, well, I'm see ya.
This is a very special program. In fact, this is in lieu of your upcoming project to commemorate and honor some of the great legends of roots music and also voice. Nina Simone, Odetta, and Abbey Lincoln.
Exactly. And Miriam as well.
How did you guys go about putting together the music for this? Because there's 6 of you on stage and there are different personalities, but all the songs that these ladies have recorded are just monumental.
Yeah, we did a few things. First of all, I think each one of us picked favorites. But then I think we started looking at their repertoire. We found out that in 1990, 3 of them had toured together in Italy. And that just raised a lot of questions for us. It's like, did they sing anything together? What did they sing? How did they work? And we weren't able to answer those questions, but we started looking at songs that maybe at least 2 out of the 3. This is before we had begun to think about Abbey because she was still alive at that time. So we looked at songs that both Nina and Odetta had recorded. And looked at songs from each one that we might already have had in our repertoire, and then started looking at what our favorites were personally, or why certain songs spoke to us personally, and then what we felt we wanted to do vocally, because it was an opportunity for us to stretch beyond what we normally do. So all of those things were a part of our considerations.
Now, I understand that this program is also a cappella, as well as you have some music accompaniment also.
Oh, definitely. We have a wonderful trio. Stacey Wade is our musical director on piano. We have Javal on drums and Harper on bass. They're wonderful young musicians. We're so honored to be working with them.
You guys premiered this program at Jazz at Lincoln Center back in the spring, and this is, like I said earlier, this is going to be an upcoming record. This had to be tedious of trying to segue from one artist to the next. I'm trying to figure out how this works.
You mean musically in terms of the program?
Yeah.
Well, we start in Africa and we kind of end in Africa. We start with Miriam Makeba, and then we go alternately, kind of Odetta, Nina, Miriam. We just go back and forth, but we wind up at the end usually with a song that says, my heart lives in Africa. That's where I am.
These women really said a lot of things socially as well as physically during the time that they were living. And how important is their music now in 2011 versus when they were in their prime in the 60s and 70s?
Oh, it's very important. We need those songs just as much or more now with the situation, things that are happening in the world, with the inequality and with the New World Order, which has been building up for quite a while, and people are just beginning to realize what's been going on under their noses while we've been sleeping for so long. And so with the uprising of people and people, the general masses of people becoming more and more enlightened and more energetic about trying to fight and stand up against the powers that be holding us down. All these songs are just very, very, very important right now.
Harry Belafonte was very, very responsible for the careers of Sister Miriam and Odetta here in the United States. But I want to bring up Harry for a minute because Harry was very responsible for bringing some of our rich tradition as far as calypso music, from the islands to the mainstream. How important do you think our roots, or connecting to our roots via the song, is very important now?
You know, we come collectively from a worldview, which is a very African worldview, that says that music has to be functional. And in that way, it not only energizes and blesses and issues prayers, but it documents where we are from day to day and accompanies every area of our life activity. We did not lose that in this country. We did not lose it in the Caribbean. We did not lose it in Central and South America. And so it's really what Harry did with the music from the Caribbean was to bring that documentation to us. He then brought Miriam's documentation to us. I was in college when he was introducing Miriam, and it was how I became politicized around South Africa. And so I really owe it to him and to her music for that whole awareness of apartheid and what was going on in South Africa. And the same with Odetta, because she was bringing spirituals into the commercial world. She was bringing work songs that were being done, you know, by men on chain gangs, and here was a woman who was presenting this material. And so in every single instance, this music has been documenting our history. And Harry has a huge role to play in that, and I've said that to him.
Take on from the county farm under the man down.
Isn't it ironic that Odetta died a few days after Sister Miriam? I mean, both presidents left here within a matter of, I think, 72 hours. And they both really stood for equality and also just wanting people to wake up and speak out on the atrocities that are going down.
Definitely. It was such a profound experience. And then while we were in the middle of putting this program together, then Abbey Lincoln passed and went on. So it was just more of an awakening for me, becoming more and more familiar with her music and realizing how much her music really touches me in a deep way that no other artist has really touched me in terms of her tonality and the kind of lyrics and things that she writes. She was extremely prolific.
Abbey was also a dynamic actress.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Woman.
yeah.
Beautiful black woman. Oh yeah, so a priestess, just conscious soul warrior. Definitely.
The thing that I really loved about Abbey, because she's like in my top 5 jazz vocalists of all time. I saw her right before I saw her in Detroit in 2004. She closed out the Detroit Jazz Festival, and she sat down in a chair the whole entire set, and she represents strength. What are some of the songs about Abbey that you can recall that just spoke to you?
I'll let Aisha answer that because she's the one that's bringing that repertoire to this particular thing. There are. Go ahead, Aisha. You can speak on it.
Well, I'll just speak mainly to the songs that I chose to put within this program, which are Down Here Below, The Music is the Magic, A Turtle's Dream, and I'm in Love. Those, this is so deep, very deep. I really resonate with all of them.
The music is the magic of a secret world. It's a world that is always within. The music is the magic and the hiding place. Hiding place. The hiding place. The music is the magic and the hiding place. It's the place where the spirit is home. It's the place where the spirit is home. It's the place where the spirit is home.
You guys have brought another presence on stage, which I think is really beautiful. The fact that sign language is a part of the oral communication, and you bring it spiritually as well as physically to the presence of the music in your stage presence. When did this evolve, and why do you think this is important to this group?
I have to go backwards into the 70s because during the middle and late 70s, the women's movement really tried to make all of their activities accessible to women who had children, so they would provide child care for festivals and concerts, so women didn't have to get up and leave because of a crying child or because their child needed to be attended to. At festivals, they would have wheelchair ramping so that women in wheelchairs could move from one space to another. They would have large print programs, and they would have sign language interpreters. Sweet Honey had participated in a number of those events, and people had asked us if we would use an interpreter. But at that point, on TV there was a little box, and you would see the interpreter in the little box, and they were always white. And at these festivals, you really would see interpreters, but they didn't look like the music of Sweet Honey sounded. And so the group was really resistant. I joined Sweet Honey in 1979 after Bernice had seen me interpreting a church service and seen me singing and signing for myself. And it was the first time that she understood that there was a cultural element to sign language and thought, oh, okay, this makes sense now. And so actually I was Sweet Honey's first interpreter. And then had to make a decision about whether or not I wanted to sing or whether or not I wanted to interpret, because you can't do both, especially in a group where you have 5 people singing 5 different things. You're supposed to hold down one of those 5 things and interpret. So who do you interpret for? So I invited Shirley Saxton, who had actually helped me move into the genre of sign language interpreting, which I had been studying at Gallaudet University. So that's how we came to bring interpreting into the group. And we have a deaf following. People who are deaf and hearing impaired, really, it takes them a while sometimes to get why would they come to an oral activity like a concert. It's all music and we don't understand. But, interestingly, when they understand the messages, they have a different interpretation, a different appreciation for what this group does, what we sing about, and I think have an interest or a curiosity that brings them. And then once they discover us, they tend to be fairly loyal.
Run on for a long time. You may run on for a long time. Let me tell you, God mighty gonna cut you down. Working got rid with midnight dew. Evening star was witness to.
Tuning in for another edition of the Pace Report, reporting live here at the Blue Note here in New York City. I'd like to personally thank the ladies of Sweet Honey and the Rock for their time, as well as Jill Newman and Jill Newman Productions for putting on this beautiful program, as well as the staff and management here at the Blue Note. As always, please visit my website, www.thepacereport.com, for my weekly column as well as my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Until next time, peace.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening over there at the bar. How y'all doing? Well, we started off our program with a traditional chant from South Africa, Sabugoya, which talks about the winds of change that can be for good or sometimes